That is the most beautiful language.
Despite friendly rapport, US President Donald Trump and visiting French President Emmanuel Macron showed some stark differences Monday when it came to the war on Ukraine. Macron is the first European leader to visit the White House in Trump's second term. His visit also fell on the 3-year anniversary of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, and came as alarm grows in Europe over Trump's hardening stance toward Ukraine and overtures to Moscow. Speaking on Monday, Trump refused to call Russian President Vladimir Putin a dictator, while Macron made clear Putin had violated the peace.
This war costed all of us a lot of money. And this is the responsibility of Russia, because the aggressor is Russia.
At one point during the Oval Office meeting, Macron corrected the US president's claim that Europe had delivered all of its aid to Ukraine as loans.
Europe is loaning the money to Ukraine. They get their money back.
No, in fact, to be frank, we paid 60% of the total efforts, and it was through, like the US, loans, guarantee, grants, and we provided real money, to be clear.
Trump expressed a desire for a ceasefire as quickly as possible and said he was trying to arrange one between Ukraine and Russia. He also said he could go to Moscow to meet Putin once a deal is reached. Macron, on the other hand, urged a more deliberate approach, starting with a truce and then a peace deal that includes guarantees.
My strong point was to say, let's try to get something first which can be assessed, checked and verified. And let's be sure that we build sufficient guarantees in the short run. And this is where we are ready to be engaged. As for France, a lot of my European colleagues are ready to be engaged. But we do need this American backup, because this is part of the credibility of the security guarantees. And this is our collective deterrence capacity.
The two did agree on the deployment of European peacekeeping forces once a deal is eventually reached. Trump said he accepts the concept, as does Putin. Trump also says he expects Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to come to the United States soon in order to seal the deal on a revenue-sharing agreement on Ukrainian minerals. Trump hopes to recoup the costs of aid the previous Biden administration had sent to Kiev in the form of weapons to repel Russia. But Zelensky had so far rejected U.S. demands for $500 billion in mineral wealth. He said the United States had supplied nowhere near that sum so far and offered no specific security guarantees in the agreement. Macron later appeared on Fox News Channel's Special Report with Bret Baier, where he was optimistic over a Ukraine-Russia deal.
First, to have a truce. I think it could be done in the weeks to come.
He said a U.S. minerals deal with Kiev would be one of the best ways to ensure a commitment from Washington. Meanwhile, the French leader also opposed Washington increasing tariffs on Europe. He instead argued the priority for the U.S. should be on strengthening defense and security rather than engaging in trade disputes with Europe and China.
The United Nations Security Council adopted a resolution that takes a neutral stance on war in Ukraine on Monday, one that was drafted by the US. It came on the third anniversary of Russia's invasion and reflects US President Donald Trump's upending of US policy on Ukraine, as well as his more conciliatory approach towards Russia compared to his predecessor, Joe Biden. Until now, the 15-member UN Security Council had been deadlocked throughout the war and unable to take any action because Russia holds a veto. However, the UN General Assembly, with its wider membership of 193, has repeatedly supported Ukraine. And earlier on Monday, the US had failed to convince the General Assembly to pass its more neutral resolution. Instead, the Assembly passed two other resolutions, one drafted by Ukraine and European countries, and another drafted by the US, with language supporting Ukraine that Europeans added in. And while General Assembly resolutions are not binding, unlike those from the Security Council, the Assembly carries political weight, reflecting a global view on the war. Ahead of the vote, Ukraine's Deputy Foreign Minister, Mariana Betsa, told the Assembly her country is not only fighting for its own independence.
This war has never been about Ukraine only. It is about a fundamental right of any nation to exist, to choose its own path, and to live free from aggression.
Later, the Security Council adopted the US resolution with 10 votes in favour, while France, Britain, Denmark, Greece and Slovenia abstained. Russia voted in favour after failing to amend the US text to include a reference to the root causes of the conflict and vetoing European bids to add language supporting Ukraine. After the Council's vote, Acting US Ambassador to the UN, Dorothy Shea, said the resolution paves the way for peace.
It is a first step, but a crucial one of which we should all be proud. Now we must use it to build a peaceful future for Ukraine, Russia, and the international community.
But Trump's approach to mediation has left Ukraine and European allies wary of his focus on Russia and worried they could be cut out of talks to end the war.
Sources say BP's chief executive is to scrap a target to increase renewable generation 20-fold by 2030 and will instead return its focus to fossil fuels. BP's shares have underperformed rivals in recent years, and the oil major has already dropped its target to cut oil and gas output by 2030. On Wednesday, BP will hold a capital markets day. The sources said CEO Murray Auchincloss will make public plans to divest assets and cut other low-carbon investments to reduce debt and boost return. BP declined to comment. According to those familiar with the matter, BP will also ditch a target to reach core earnings of $49 billion this year, and instead set an annual percentage growth target. Across the energy sector, major companies that moved to lower carbon portfolios have returned to oil and gas. Returns have become easier as fossil fuel prices have rebounded from pandemic lows. The investor environment has also been transformed by the re-election of US President Donald Trump, a climate skeptic and advocate of fossil fuels. Pressure has become intense on BP after activist investor Elliott Investment Management built up a nearly 5% stake. Elliott is demanding an overhaul, including tighter cost discipline at BP.
بنصدر ل 70 دولة أكتر الدول اللي بنصدر.
We export to 70 countries, the largest of which is America, Canada, and countries in Europe like Spain, France, Greece, and Cyprus. Basically, all the seafront countries. We also have cars in all the islands worldwide. Even people closest to us do not believe that our products are Egyptian made, all handmade. All our products are handmade, and our raw materials are also local. There's almost nothing that we do not make here in our factory.
تقريبا مفيش حاجة ما بنعملهاش هنا في مصنعنا.